recruiters, and we are joined by three of recruiters today. And they are here to kind of give you some more insights on your job search, any tips and tricks, and maybe some insight as well on how they evaluate candidates, and hopefully that would help you. So let me just do some quick introductions here. My name is Zarina Yamat. I'm an Assistant Director of Employer Relations for the STEM majors, and I'm joined by my colleague Brooke Massini. So I'll let her introduce herself.
Hopefully everyone can hear us, but welcome in everyone. Just like Serena said, my name is Brooke Menacini. I'm also Assistant Director, Employer Relations, and I work with the College of Arts and Sciences, non-STEM degrees.
Great. And then today, as I mentioned, we have some recruiters joining us, and we have three wonderful recruiters. We have Farah Pavri, TA Associate at AlphaSights. We have Hannah Jackson, at University Recruiter at Veeva Systems, and Monique Michel, Senior Talent Acquisition Specialist at F5. So welcome to the three of you, and thank you so much for taking the time to connect with all of us today. So I will go ahead and let them introduce themselves, and then we'll jump right into the panel session. And then afterwards, we'll have some Q&A from the audience. So Hannah, do you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, definitely. Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. My name is Hannah Jackson. As Serena mentioned, I am a university recruiter for Veeva Systems. I've been there for around 4 years. Veeva is located in Pleasanton, California, so not too far away from Santa Clara. We spend a little bit of time on campus every season, and we focus on software for the life sciences industry. So a lot of the things I'll be talking about today is like we're reviewing resumes and tips for kind of applying to those specific roles, but I think it applies to a lot of roles across the board. So hope to provide some valuable insights and yeah, excited to be here.
Great. Monique?
Thank you. So my name is Monique Michel. I am the very long title that Zarina said on the Senior Talent Acquisition Specialist, but in particular, you can shorten that and think of it as University Relations and Recruiting because I am on the Early in Careers team at F5. We specialize in data and application security. We're right in your backyard, just on First Street here in San Jose. Me personally, I've been in the early careers university relations for a number of years now and love joining these events and sharing some great insights. I see some familiar names and familiar faces, so it's great to reconnect with some of you and connect with the rest of you for the first time.
Great. Thanks, Monique. Farah?
Hi, everyone. My name is Farah. I am an associate at AlphaSights on our talent acquisition team. So AlphaSights, we are a knowledge on demand network. So we are in the business of connecting our clients with experts in specific fields to help them make the most successful business decisions. So we hire for our client service associate roles, and really those tap into your sort of softer skills. So we welcome all sorts of backgrounds, and in terms of what we hire for, we're hiring rising seniors, right, and seniors and graduates for our full-time role. So that's a little bit about that, but we have two offices, one in San Francisco and one in New York, but super excited to be here today.
Great. Thanks, Farah. So we'll just jump right in here, with our questions. So one of the bigger topics, obviously, lately is around AI, how candidates use AI to help them write their resumes, and also how employers use AI in their own recruiting process. So with this massive surge in AI and use for resume building and applications, from your perspective, how has the high volume of AI-generated applications changed the way you identify top-tier talent? And I'll maybe Hannah, you can start off.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, AI has definitely changed the space a little bit. Again, I've been here for 4 years now, and I've kind of seen it shift a lot from 2022 to now. A lot of what I'm seeing is just like a lot of resumes coming in that look really, really similar. And I know a lot of people are going for those buzzwords and they're trying to use things that's going to trigger the ATS to identify them as a qualified candidate. But at least with Viva's process, we go through the resumes, we see what's on them, and it's almost a little bit obvious at this point which one is kind of completely tailored by AI and completely generated by AI, and the ones that have been thought through a little bit more and they're telling more of a real story. So yeah, I tend to be able to pick those ones out. And what I want to see on a resume is really like your story. I don't really see AI as a problem. I think it's a great way to get your thoughts on paper and see what you can do and see what the resume should look like. But you don't want to make it sound like someone you're not, and you don't want it to be manufactured and telling a story that's not truly yours. So I think it's shifted the way that applications kind of come in, and the ones that really stand out are the ones that you can see that the more thought has been put into their actual story. It seems more human written. It sounds more like a person. It sounds more like them. So I'll pause there, but it's kind of my take.
Monique, how about you?
Yeah, I definitely would echo that. It looks very similar, usually when it's generated out, and it can not sound like the authentic person. And so, Hannah, when you were talking about the story of you, that's something that I really look for in a resume. It's not just the keywords and the buzzwords, which is great to align, and we always suggest that. For at F5, yes, we may have filters for those keywords, but we're looking over all those resumes. And so really reading the job description and making sure that it's aligned in an authentic way to yourself. Because I've had AI spit out some crazy things about people. And yeah, definitely different thought processes on how to stand out. But yeah, overall, AI will give a very standard format. Excuse me, format.
Right, great. Farah? Right. Okay, I know she was having a little bit of connection issues, but I guess along the lines of the story do you have any advice or tips on how they can make that story stand out in their resume so that it doesn't get lost in that algorithm, the human story?
Yeah, yeah, I can kind of build on that first. But what I really want to see is like your story that a human can understand. It's not just for a system to understand. Again, really understanding that job description to help build your resume. But when you're writing your story, think about like specifics. Think about what did you actually do or build? What problem did you solve? What was your contribution? What was the outcome? Um, Utilizing those kind of questions to create your bullet points underneath a project or something that you worked on. Every space kind of counts, and we do like look through that, especially not necessarily always when we're taking a first glance at a resume, but when we're really looking at it in depth. You're in the interview with someone, you need to be able to speak on all of that. You want it to sound like yourself. So take it the step further of like, I did this, I worked with a group of five, kind of explain maybe the reason why, what was the outcome, what were the challenges, what did you learn from it? Things like that.
Mhm. Monique, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you can leverage AI as a tool. It's a tool, not a substitute. Um, the more data that you give to format bullet points, the better it's going to come out. But a lot of the times it's super surface level. So when Hannah was talking about the impact and what you do and who did you work with, it's not going to know to infer that very well, the AI that you're using. So really, yes, it's a launch point or maybe a fine tuning. But that story of that project you worked on in school and you worked with a team of five and you took XYZ leadership roles on it and presented to maybe the department chair, and it changed a whole outcome recommendation for the either real or fictitious entity that you were doing this project for. And then keeping that consistent format of like, just pick one. There's many out there. There's STAR, there's PAR, there's XYZ. Really, it all boils down to the project or the problem, the actions you took and the skills you used, and then the impact or the results and learnings. So don't switch in the middle of your resume because that can throw it off a little bit too and look like it might be AI generated.
Mhm. Can you share a little bit about how you use AI in your recruiting process? And I think we get a lot of questions about like, is someone still actually reviewing my resume? Um, so I'll let you.
Yeah. Farah, are you back? Do you want to take this? We've been talking a
Yeah.
lot, and if you're back, otherwise I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah, I know she was.
Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. My Wi-Fi is being a little spotty, but yeah, I think for the most part, a lot of companies have AI tools to help with review or AI tools to do before even the application process is done. But at least for AlphaSights, we're reviewing, use AI components as a part of our whole review. But I can tell you, I think in the talent acquisition community, we still really want to have those high touch points with candidates. We don't want this to become a process that is completely run by AI by any means. But I think we use it to help our efficiency to be able to figure out who might have the best alignment with our roles and who might really enjoy the role. But I think people try to use it in a way to make things more holistic rather than against you.
Great. Thank you. Hannah or Monique, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can add to that a bit. I completely agree. I think it's definitely a tool that makes us more efficient. We get so many applications that are coming in. We want to touch on everyone. So we want to see everyone. Sometimes that's just not possible. Even before AI, things just wouldn't be seen. So it's helping out a little bit in that sense. And AI being used in the recruiting process is just so dependent on the company, the role, what you're applying for. At Veeva, we don't use AI in our process at all, actually. We probably eventually will, but right now we don't. We have a test that you'll take at first that is not AI. It's just a test that you take, you pass it or you don't. And then from there, you're working directly with a recruiter who's seeing that resume, seeing that application, seeing all the kind of cover letters and kind of paragraphs you wrote throughout the application. So we're not using it, but I think the way the industry is right now, it's being used. So you can't assume that they're not using it. But just remembering the fact that it's being used as a tool. It's not being used as a decision maker right now. So it's helping speed things up. Maybe there's negatives to it where a resume is not getting moved forward because it's not hitting those buzzwords or something that the ATS is looking for or the AI is looking for. But it's not making decisions and for the most part, and it's being used as a tool.
Are there other tools aside from the ATS that you use? And it's not just directly towards you, but Monique or Farah, other tools that helps you with sourcing?
I specifically just use LinkedIn Recruiter. And there's like an AI component of that, I guess, where you're searching for different keywords in a LinkedIn profile or different skills that you have listed in your profile. I'm also doing a lot of sourcing just on campus, face to face with people, direct to outreach, whether it's on campus or kind of through email blasts, things like that. But LinkedIn Recruiter is primarily what we use.
Yeah, I can. Oh,
Oh,
Farah, do you want
go
to go
ahead,
first?
Monique.
Okay. I can jump in, and I've used different tools over the years, and I'll focus in on two that are a little more AI heavy. So it all depends on the platforms themselves. There are more AI ones out there, there are less AI ones out there. So, for example, like Ripple Match, they have an AI component and an algorithm to help match you with the roles and kind of expedite that in a curated service. So really kind of making sure even your profile is updated on like that. And same with even LinkedIn, because they'll have their own kind of algorithm that they're pulling from. And then there's certain ATSs that are more AI heavy, like Eightfold. And that in particular, if I pull the curtain back a little bit for everyone, it gives a ranking on how strong your resume is to the job description. And so if your recruiters and the recruiter is very diligent on aligning that algorithm to the job description and making sure that that AI understands exactly what that job is looking for, it could give a really strong outcome and correlation. Or if they don't update anything and it just infers, it could drop your resume down into a lower matching score, for example, and it's not necessarily because it's not matching. So there is a little bit of component on that, thinking about the actual tools that you're applying and finding the jobs to and matching with. Much like Hannah, I am on campuses like at events like this or career fairs, connecting with students face to face, reaching out to them, and a very high human touch point. F5 very much is strong on human first and then high performing, or and tandem the two. So really taking that time to consider the humans as well that we're interacting with, like you.
Yeah, I would totally agree with both what Hannah and Monique said. I would say by and large, my organization, we're using LinkedIn, but we're in terms of, I think we really prioritize human connection. So definitely those on-campus opportunities where we're getting to be face-to-face with students and talk about the role, talk about your interests. I think that's the best way to really stand out to a recruiter is with them. It always helps to put a face to the name and get to chat with someone a bit. So yeah.
Okay.
If I could just add one more thing, Serena,
Yeah,
actually.
of course.
I just remember too, we're using another tool as of late. We're using WayUp as well to do sourcing and recruiting. And I just kind of wanted to elaborate on this a bit. There's so many different AI platforms or sourcing platforms that can be used in the recruiter world, and there's an algorithm for every single one, and it's pulling from different things. And I think from a candidate's perspective, one of the most important things is just to remember that it's important to be honest. It's important to know your strengths. It's important to highlight those and utilize those tools that you also have, whether it's setting up a WayUp account, whether it's strengthening your LinkedIn profile or your resume. But the more honest and the more accurate you are with your skills and your story, that will end up linking you to the right role. Like it's a benefit in a way for candidates too, to highlight what they've done and to also help make that match. So just stay on it, be diligent about your profiles, make sure they're up to date, make sure they're highlighting all of your experience and what you've done, because we do look for that and we do see it. So if it's matching what our job description is saying, then that's great. We'll probably reach out to you. And if it doesn't, then we might not. But maybe that means that it's not the right fit.
Right. And I think people have to remember too, as recruiters, you're working more than one position. So if you
Yeah.
applied for a role that may not be a fit for that particular role, but there could be something else that they're working on that's not visible to you where you could be a match for. So it's really kind of opening yourself up. And I think having that authenticity is important, especially because with ATSs or other systems where they ask you to write a cover letter, or they just ask, questions where it requires a written response. Some people use AI and that's okay, but when you're using it solely and just copying and pasting, I think that's where what I've seen in the past, people run into problems.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So with regards to the skill sets, I guess I'll pivot a little bit. How much weight do you put on someone's experience when they may not be applying, they may not have the experience of the job that they're applying to, right? So for example, if someone's early in career, they've had a job at customer service or, a grocery store, but they're applying for a technical role, right? So they've taken all these classes. What suggestions can you give to those who are in that position, right? That kind of help them stand out. So I'll let anybody.
I can jump in.
Okay.
I am the queen of transferable skills. So just to give everyone a quick high-level background, I went back to finish my degree after 10 years in the workforce, and I've moved through many different industries, many different roles. And so those transferable skills and being able to tell how I'm using them to be strategic and effective in my roles really helps. So I'll give the example of I started in fashion and I learned forecasting. I can use that same do use that same forecasting skill for my roles going forward. And even today, when it comes to what type of talent do we need at the business? What type of schools and engagements are going to be most effective to attract those key individuals that we want at F5? So think about the skills that you've used. So customer service is a great example. That bridges even into your interpersonal relationships amongst team members. And you have to remember also there's internal customers as much as there's external. So the business departments you work with are often your customer as well. So you have all of those skills built in. Just explaining how they transfer to each role is really critical. So yeah, you don't have to have tech experience to get tech experience. Oftentimes we'll see your scores in like an assessment, and then we want to see how you're approaching everything and explaining those transferable skills.
But I think
Potential.
yeah, to your point, those soft skills is also equally important, in addition to the technical skills, right?
Yeah, I agree. I'll build on that too, because I completely agree with everything Monique said. And we're recruiting a lot for new grads, and we're not expecting 2 to 3 years of experience in the industry. Maybe a couple months of an internship, maybe 2 internships. That's great, but that's really the most industry experience that we typically see. So I see so much customer service, grocery store, like any kind of role like that. I think that's great, but I also want to see that story there. I want to see what you learned, who you communicated with. Did you work under pressure? How'd you manage priorities in that role? And it can also build a story of who you are as a person. Like if you're in school and then you're also holding down that job to pay off something like a student loan, that shows a lot of like hardworking, diligent skills that we really do value here at Veeva, and we'll dive into that. But it builds that story of who you actually are. And it's nothing to hide, it's nothing to apologize for having that maybe unrelated experience. It just really is translating it to what we can see as that's a valuable skill for the role that we're looking for.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off that, what both you said, I think transferable skills, you'll see them in so many different roles, and you can really take a lot of the skills that you've gained through school, through past experiences, even if they don't completely align. There's so much that does translate to the roles that you're in. I think another thing is even if you don't have necessarily professional experience in that area, at AlphaSights especially, and I think for all early career roles, we love to see leadership experience and involvement on campus. So showing that you're pursuing things outside of your academics to kind of make you a more well-rounded person. That can also be a really big place where you can pull from in terms of your skills and things that you've been involved with.
Right. And anything that you've seen, like red flags that have become consistent in terms of the resumes that you do see?
I think the biggest red flag that we see, and it is not really anything that we know until we actually get speaking with the person, is if someone can't talk about a skill that they say that they've had or an experience that they say that they've had. And I think that's a huge problem with having AI generate a lot of these resumes and generate these buzzwords. It's like, okay, you have strong problem solving skills. Can you tell me about a story where you had to solve a big problem, what you learned from it, what came from it? And if you don't have a story or an experience that you can share, that highlights why you would consider that a skill on your resume, then that's going to be a red flag on our end. And you need to be able to speak to everything and make it reflect who you are, and also go back to that kind of that story.
Mhm. Yeah. Monique, any other comments you have on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo what Hannah said because that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, oh man, which one do you choose? Because you can have some pretty big ones or some odd ones. But yeah, it taking that time to read through to make sure that AI didn't create or overinflate what you did. So that authenticity of the story of you is pretty important. Yeah. I'll let Farah go. Hannah stole my idea. All good. It's a good idea. It's a very important one.
This kind of adds on a little bit, but I think sometimes people tailor their resumes to really fit that role. And that's not inherently a bad thing. But I think sometimes people then do overemphasize certain past experience or skills that they have that they don't, and that's okay. We don't expect you to have all of those skills at like that point in your career. But I do think again, like write your resume for you, and not to overemphasize any skills or past experiences that you do have. I oftentimes see in resumes that people submit, they will use words from like our website to we kind of always end up seeing through that, and I think it ends up hurting more than it helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I've had candidates in the past, from past experience, where they're not able to elaborate on the role, right? Or speak to the skills that they mentioned on their resume because they want to get through that gate. But, not realizing, there's going to be further questions about that, especially if it's a technical role where they definitely dive a lot deeper. So we just have to be cognizant of that. And in addition to that is when you have video interviews, some people use a supplement to help them answer their questions while they're going through their interviews. I don't know if you had that experience before, but it is obvious from a recruiter's perspective. But what are your thoughts around that?
I'm going to jump on in real quick because this was a hot topic past couple of years. Be honest about it. Say, hey, I brought notes, or if you're going in for an AI role and you want to take notes using an AI tool, ask beforehand if it's okay. And really, it gets down to the minutia of I've had hiring managers come back to me after interviews and be like, they went on mute for too long, too often. And I think they were getting fed answers, or their eyeballs kept looking to the left. And it could simply be that you had a note to the left that said, you got this. And so as long as you're explaining it, that's fine. And ask permission ahead of time if you want to leverage an AI tool.
Great advice.
Yeah, I'll add to that. It definitely is very easy to spot when you're doing 5 interviews a day and someone's just staring in the corner of their screen or they're taking too long. It's not organic. You can pick it out pretty quickly and it's fishy. It leaves the recruiter with a funky feeling after the interview. They don't feel like they were talking to an authentic person. It's actually just honestly really frustrating from a recruiter's perspective because they can see a lot of valuable qualities, but this person's not being themselves. So it's better to prepare for the interview, practice questions beforehand, have notes. I think it's great when people have notes and they're taking notes. But as Monique said, be honest. Tell me what you're doing on the other end of the screen because I don't know. And I can go into a lot of different assumptions, just with all the tools that we have nowadays that might not work out for your benefit.
Right. Farah, anything to add or?
No, they pretty much covered it. The only thing I would say is, yeah, it always helps, I think, to ask beforehand if you do want to use any sort of AI tool. For us personally, I know that is completely not allowed in interviews and sometimes really does throw people for a loop when they see someone come in with like an AI note taker or something like that. Like Hannah said, I think it's always great to take notes, but I would definitely recommend doing those by hand if you do want to take notes. I think it just gives off a better impression, and then we don't have to worry about if we're talking to you or if we're talking to a computer. So yeah.
Great. I'm going to change topic a little bit. Well, it's still about skills, but soft skills, because I've heard, and from experience too, that the emphasis on having soft skills, right? Especially for those in technical roles, where the focus is on the technical side of things, what you know, but just as equally important is the soft skills. Are there any soft skills that you have found where, recent graduates are lacking, where they could improve on?
I can go. Um, I think the obvious one I feel is a little bit of communication. It obviously varies so much, but I mean, we all went through a time 6 years ago where we all went online. We weren't communicating with people as much. We weren't in person. Yes, we've had time to recover from that, but AI's really taken up since then. We're not writing as much. We're not even like talking to people about ideas as much. It's a lot more talking to a computer. Um, and communication is probably the biggest one. We actually just had our interns do their final presentation, and a big thing that they took away from their internship is how important it is to communicate, how important it is to ask good questions. And they wish that they had practiced that even more when they were in school to help prepare them for the industry. So it's maybe a lacking a little bit, but also an opportunity to really impress a recruiter or a recruiting team if you have excellent communication skills, if you can present well, if you can be polished when you're talking and have a clear understanding of what you're going to say and go throughout that process. Um, and there's great ways to practice that, whether it's mentoring, doing group projects, being involved in like hackathons for CS students, giving presentations, things like that. So great opportunities to build those skills, but it's definitely a great way to impress.
Yeah, I think communication is definitely the one I see the most, but kind of in tandem with that can sometimes come like time management. Obviously, in interviews, people get nervous and can be too long. I've sometimes asked people to give me an introduction and it ends up being like 10 minutes. And it's okay, we know you're nervous, but I think the biggest thing is being aware of your communication to try and be concise and clear at the same time. Also had the opposite where I feel like I'm prying things out of people. So it's hard to find that balance, but I think practicing your communication skills and even just practicing like how you're going to answer certain questions can be really helpful. Sometimes I would put if I'm already in the interview, and I found that helpful. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, use friends, right, to practice with. That can help. And as much exposure as you can get to networking as well, will help to kind of get that practice in, without trying to sell too much, but being able to foster those partnerships will be really important, and try to get that communication practice across. It's really a good way, whether it's through a conference or a job fair, use that as a tool to practice communication skills. With regards to portfolios, LinkedIn profiles, and personal projects, are do you see a value in someone doing all of those things? Do you see value in a portfolio versus a resume? Just thoughts around that?
Well, I'm off mute. I'll go first. I'll also plus one what Farah and Hannah had just said. I think it's valuable to have multiple. So like LinkedIn, your resume, if you have a GitHub or something, they all tell a little bit of something different about you. And if you just take LinkedIn, oftentimes I explain that as a sibling to your resume because it's going to go into depth about different elements about you, where you're active and how you support other people within that network. Um, the project portfolios, they're also valuable to show how you're using your technical skills and how often you're doing things. Or even if it's like a marketing portfolio, you're continually building that because that continual improvement and growth mindset is something that I know in not just F5, but other companies that I've worked with is a high value kind of non-technical skill to embrace.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely a valuable add. And going back to the start of the conversation when we were discussing how can you make that human story real? How can you be more specific in your resume? I think that's a great opportunity to be able to give actual concrete proof of something that you've worked on in the past and what you completed. I have had so many interviews over the past 4 years, but there's one that sticks out probably the most, and it was really impressive, is someone was in the interview with me and they kind of took it in their own hands to share their screen and walk me through the project that we were discussing and show me the demo of what they created and what they did. Because it's also kind of hard for a recruiter to visualize all of these projects. I mean, I'm in the CS space, but I got my degree in business. So I'm like talking in a different language to them most of the time. But when I was able to see the actual project and what was accomplished, it was really cool. And I truly will never forget that interview. I was kind of shocked that they screen shared and showed me, but it kind of goes away from the question a little bit, but be a little bit daring in those interviews too. You know, we're having a lot of them. If you're a little bit different, you stand out, you won't get forgotten, and it's kind of worth taking a little bit of a risk there. And the risk is just showing off your great work. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to just quickly add on, it helps us better explain and advocate for you as a candidate as well. The more we can communicate with our teams and our hiring managers and the business on the value that you bring and add, the better.
Yeah, and I think it also will kind of show how you can explain something technical to a non-technical person. So I think, and if the recruiter, is able to convey that to the manager, then you've done a great job, right? Great. So I'm going to pivot a little bit to networking. So that's another big topic here anyways. So it can be pretty intimidating to a lot of students to network, to approach someone. What do I say? What's a good low pressure way to engage, with a recruiter or a hiring manager or another company representative? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think a great low pressure way is say at a career fair. We're really looking to meet students, meet candidates, and it can be a good way to familiarize yourself with companies more and kind of get a broader understanding of what's out there. But I think, again, it always helps to have a face to the name. So that allows both us as recruiters to get to know you better, what you're looking for, and see if you're the right fit. But I think it's a very low pressure way to do that. We're meeting so many people and we're really there to do that. So I love when people do come up to us. We're also I do reach out to people on Handshake and LinkedIn. So when people come up and are like, oh, hey, I got your message, I think that's a great way to create that touch point. And remember, we're people too. I know it can be really frightening, but we're here to meet you. We want to meet you. It's our entire job and what we love doing. So just remember that we're here to help. So yeah.
Right. What about referrals? From my perspective, that's always the best way, and where a lot of companies make their hires is through referrals. What are your thoughts about that? How can someone, kind of build on their network to get more referrals? It's not just, oh, you went to my same school, I'm going to reach out to you, can you refer me? Because obviously they don't know you, right? So that's kind of where networking becomes really important and being authentic about it. But what are some of the other suggestions you may have about referrals?
Yeah, does anyone else want to jump in, or I'm happy to?
I can jump in, but if you want to go first.
No, please go ahead, Monique.
Okay. Build a rapport and ask for them or wait for them to be offered. I will give you a story that happened to me as an early careers university recruiter. Someone used my name and somehow used me as a referral for a role at my company. And they reached out to me and I don't know who this person is. And it was a very creepy way because it was through Facebook. And I don't know how they found that out because that was locked down. So it left a very bad taste in not only my mouth, but the company and my colleagues as well. So build that relationship and that rapport, and it'll organically come around. Versus just off the bat saying, hey, I'm a Santa Clara University student. I'm going to be graduating in spring of 2027 with my degree in business administration. Can I have a referral? And it's a little like being on a first date, being like, want to get married? So think of it in that kind of context of you want to kind of get to know each other better before you make that commitment. They are definitely a high value item, and I would not take them lightly. We at F5 do have a lot of referrals and a heavy support for the interns and new college grads. So there's a lot to a referral in particular, but be mindful and build that rapport first, and don't just assume.
Yeah, and I think that kind of applies to all levels, right? So whether you're in early career or, much more seasoned, everybody.
Yeah.
Farah or Hannah?
I can touch on that too a little bit. And I'll talk about a little bit too about just like what my family and friends do when they're looking for a referral. Lean on the network that you have. You have family, you have friends, you have people around you. You're in school, you're in Santa Clara. There's alumni from your school that are working at great companies in the Bay Area and all over the world. That's a great connection. Even if you are just connected via the school that you went to, people usually have a soft spot for that and they'll want to reach out and have a conversation with you. LinkedIn is such an amazing place to find those people. And start with the job. Okay, or the company. I want to work at Veeva Systems. Look at who you know is there. And it's very normal and very okay to reach out to those people via LinkedIn, or if it's a connection through a mutual friend, reach out to that friend and ask for their phone number or their email, and then send them a direct message. From there, have a 15, 20-minute phone call, get to know them a little bit more, understand the business, the industry that they're working in, and what the company's doing. And if you think it's a good fit, you can ask them for a referral. And I'd say like 8 times out of 10, people will give it to you. So utilize those connections. I think some people go that recruiter route a lot and they think if I can just get a recruiter's name as a referral, that's going to be awesome. But it actually doesn't hold that much weight, especially for university recruiters, because we're talking to so many people, and more often than not, those referrals are not genuine or actually even like approved from us. They're just putting our name on the application. So it doesn't have to be someone that's in the role that you want to be in at the company. They can even help connect you to the right person there. But utilize that network of yours. You already have a great network, and keep building on it and kind of go that route. I would recommend.
Right. Or any last minute thoughts?
No, the only thing I would add on to Hannah's is yes, like recruiter, I think referrals don't mean too much typically. It depends, I think, company to company, but for us, we can't even do referrals. So they can't come from us. So just think about that. You also have to remember like this person is vouching for you, even if they don't know you super well. So I think always just being like really gracious and being really polite and, working on their timeline and their schedule goes a long way.
Great. So we're kind of like almost to the top of the hour here. So I just wanted to, close out with just a couple of questions. It's like a this or that. So one word answer. And then we'll open it up to the audience for any questions. And then I know we've had some people submit some questions here that I'm seeing. So we'll definitely get to those as well. So I want to give time for that. So the first one is I guess this is more for early career. On the resume, GPA, putting your GPA down or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only if it's good.
Fair.
Good point.
3.5 and above.
Okay. Okay. Okay, the last one, cover letter or no cover letter?
I do think it's company specific. I think it really does depend, but I'll be honest, I don't read cover letters too often. We appreciate them, but I don't think they hold a ton of weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. It's
Same.
industry and company specific. So academia, legal, maybe finance, want them, but as a whole, especially for university recruiting purposes, you could do the same with 2 sentences as a summary or a professional overview at the top of your resume.
Mhm. Yeah. What would you say for those who are more on the professional side, the more seasoned, where they've been doing a career pivot, right? And you're looking at their resume like, why did they apply to this role? Would a cover letter help just to kind of explain their story a little bit?
Yeah, it
And
would. The ones that I have read, which is like I counted on one hand, was because I was like, why are they applying to this role? And the cover letter explained career pivot or this is their first job and XYZ. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think even having a blurb, like Monique said at the beginning of your resume, can be really helpful, like explaining what sort of roles you're interested in or that sort of thing. just because, we're reading like thousands of resumes. So I think it can be helpful to see that in one place rather than maybe a ton of others. So yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, I'll conclude this part of the moderation. And so we want to open it up to anybody who may have questions. We do have some questions here online, so I'll start with that, and anybody can feel free to jump on. One question is, do you only see resumes that are completely tailored by AI? Are they similar because only similar resumes survive?
No, I see a variety.
Yeah. Agreed. We don't, again, use AI in our process, so it's not, I see every kind of resume, but I can pick out the ones that look like AI.
Yeah, definitely. There are dead giveaways, which I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with at this point, but I would say try to avoid those if you can.
Yeah. Okay. Another question here. Is there a market for more mature adults seeking a position in the business administration? She is on the online MBA right now.
Mm. I would say yes. It depends on where you're looking. The Mom Project, I think it's called. It's kind of like a handshake for people returning to the workforce after being gone for a longer way, traditionally homemakers, but it could be career pivots and long gaps for any which reason. Again, it's all in explaining who you are and how you're leveraging your skills. Because trust me, being a parent that travels around with all their kids and has all the calendars, like you have time management locked in if you're really getting it all together. So there's transferable skills even when you don't think that there are.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Monique. Another question. Can you please walk us through the steps in building up the new skills the position asks for? So how much of experience in developing the new skills are acceptable when career pivoting to a new industry, apart from having internship experience?
I can kind of speak on that from like a university hire scenario because that's what I mainly focus on. But skills take some time to develop. It's not going to happen overnight. And what I always tell people is to start early. If you're interested in a role, you can talk to the people at the career fair when you're a freshman or a sophomore, even if they're not hiring until you're a senior or a junior, and understand what skills that company is looking for. And then if it's communication, if it's public speaking, then get involved in activities that will improve and develop those skills. So try to start early. But again, if you're applying to roles, like you have your own personal set of skills, rely on that. Like don't make up a skill just to get the role. Rely on your strengths and find the right role that will highlight those, and you'll probably be a lot happier too. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely takes time to help to build up certain skills. It's definitely not overnight. I think if you just exhibit that and kind of explain what your process in learning, I think that helps too. Okay, another question. For those who are pivoting careers years after graduating, how can professionals show transferable skills besides what's mentioned earlier? What other steps are recommended for those who are pivoting?
Trying to think of a concise answer. So essentially switching industries or job roles is what I'm understanding. Careers are a jungle gym. They're rarely a ladder. So even if it's a horizontal move into a different role, so say you were a data analyst and you're moving into more of a developer role, and then you're going to move up in the developer track. Really just knowing that it's okay to say, yeah, I've got a lot of skills. Maybe I was a manager before, but I want to change. I'm really passionate about this software developer initiative and role. And these are the steps I've taken to make it so that I am a great candidate for this. That's kind of what I would suggest.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd
definitely.
also
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I would also say if it's a true passion and maybe if there's things that you need to accomplish before jumping into it, go for it. Like sometimes you have to go to grad school, sometimes you have to get an associate, sometimes you have to do a little bit of work before being able to make that jump. My sister is actually doing it right now, and she's going to go to grad school in order to go into the CS space. She studied science in college. Um, and there's programs and opportunities that are designed for those specific leaps that people want to take. So if it's something that you really want to do, it's worth it to put the year or even 2 years into building those skills to really solidly get into that field or that role.
Mhm.
Yeah, and finding someone that will advocate for you and sponsor you as a name for the project. And we can go into a whole thing about personal brand and how to do that. It's a whole other hour, but that's another way to leverage your network.
Yeah, and doing informational interviews too. And I think that goes for everybody, right? Early career or professional, to see how, the things that you already know currently, how they can transfer to a new role that you're jumping into. And then that's where you can leverage your summary or cover letter, to highlight those as well. Okay, so another question is, let's see. Um, oh, someone got their master's a couple of months ago and got the bachelor's 2 years ago. Should they put their master's in the resume? And if I also have limited or no work experience, sometimes I hear that my profile is put into a limbo spot where I'm overqualified for entry-level roles, but by putting the master's, that's overqualified for entry roles by putting the master's, but still underqualified due to the work experience at the same time. Is that true?
I think it does really depend on the role. Um, for example, at AlphaSights, we really only hire people that are 2 years out of their bachelor's degree or and sometimes take on master's students. But I will say, I think you have to kind of do some research about the role you're applying for and see what their qualifications are to best tailor your resume for that. I think that can really help in terms of figuring out should I put both of my education things on that, because we do have as we were talking about, tools that help us with resume reviews and stuff, and sometimes I think AI can get finicky and possibly put you into an area where you don't fit. So I think really it does help to research each role and what their qualifications are to best figure out how to position yourself.
Right. And
I'll
how,
also
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna go back to kind of what we said earlier. Be honest. Like, if you got a master's degree, that's amazing. You should put that on your resume. And if you have 5 years of experience or 10 years of experience that's not on your resume, and we figure that out, and it is a requirement that you have to have less than 2 years of experience, then you've wasted your time, you've wasted the company's time. It's just not a good look at the end of the day. I mean, if I was interviewing someone and they hadn't put their master's program on their resume, and then at the end of the process, we figure out that they have a master's, I'd be like, what the heck? How did we not know this? Like, that's really cool. That's great. You have to be honest on a resume, especially with hard experiences like that. And that's a huge accomplishment. So you absolutely should be putting that on your resume and not avoiding that.
Yeah, absolutely. Any tips on how to get noticed or connect with a recruiter if there has been no response after applying?
Try to find us on campus.
Yeah. Find us on campus. Really build that rapport. that we talked about, build that relationship, because we do get so many applications, and it could just simply be that there are, I kid you not, I've had over 10,000 applications in one single role that people have applied to, and I just hadn't gotten there yet in my review. It's like, I'm good. I can do about 100 resumes and applications in an hour, a little over 100, but I'm not that good to get through 10,000 in a day. So a little patience sometimes helps as well, but ultimately, yeah, I would echo what Hannah said, build that rapport, find us on campus.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess along those same lines, some people recommend reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn or by email about a specific job that they apply to. Do you recommend that?
It depends. I have a lot of messages on LinkedIn that I physically and mentally cannot go through. Um, if you ping me a couple times, it doesn't like it's not bothering me. And sometimes I'll see it and then I'll go and check the application. But with our process, like you either hear back or you don't, and reaching out to a recruiter about the results is not really going to change the direction that it's going to go. You can find me on campus. You can ask maybe why and get some clarity or understanding there because you can't always give feedback to every single no. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to send some messages. If you have the name, go for it. You might hear back. Worst case, you don't.
Or you hear back from me and it says, we're on it. We'll get back to you if there's any movement forward. So
Yeah, at least it's a response.
yeah.
Another question here. I'll probably have a room for a couple more. What makes a behavioral interview answer memorable from a recruiter's perspective?
I personally love it when people give me examples of I mean, I think with all questions, you can kind of turn it back to an example. I think we've kind of talked about this idea of having a narrative. I think having clear-cut examples of that story, of your story, of why that role makes sense for you and how it fits into everything, those answers do really stick with me. I also examples of like where you have some sort of like tangible impact. It doesn't necessarily need to be that you did this amazing thing social impact wise or anything like that, but if you can put a number to something of like here's what I did and here was the return rate of it or something like that, I think that really sticks out to me when someone's talking to me about something.
Yeah.
Clear
Behavioral
example.
interviews that always stand out to me too are when people really do treat a recruiter like a person, asking how your day is, asking what you're going to be doing this weekend, what you did last weekend, how long you've been in the role. Like we're asking so many questions to so many people all the time that when someone does ask a question about you, you're like, whoa, hold on a second. How long have I been in this role? Like it kind of catches you off guard, but it's a really nice feeling. So, yeah, remember we're people, we're rooting for you. We want you to succeed and, get to know us a little bit too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely the ones that are more conversations than just like a straight like grilling back and forth. And the enthusiasm also is very memorable. So are you enthusiastic about the role? Do you get really excited about this one time that you had a huge success after this big hurdle? If it's just flat, it's a little hard to remember. If you're super flat, maybe we remember you in the wrong way. But that enthusiasm is memorable too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, I think we're at the top of the hour here. So there were actually more questions, but we won't have time to get to them, unfortunately. But thank you, Monique, Farah, and Hannah for, enlightening us with your tips and advice. Really appreciate it. And thank you everyone else for joining us today. And have a great rest of your summer.
Thank you.
Okay,
You
thank
all.
you. All right, bye-bye.